Yellow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Z, Z. This is a letter Z. Zebra. Zebra. Now I know my ABC. Next time, won't you sing with me? A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V
W X Y and Z.
Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me?
Hey.
Good morning. My name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today is December 20th, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Boards and Pardons and Parole. The following board members are present this morning and by state their names of the records, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Panel Member Barry.
Robert Sazowskis.
Joy Chance.
We're requesting to continue Mr. Anthony Brown, 437536. He has been transferred to a different facility.
Thank you. I move to continue Anthony Brown 437536 to the next, I guess, Gardner docket. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's our understanding that he has been transferred to that facility.
Yes, Madam Chair. This concludes the hearing for Anthony Brown, 437536.
All right, all right. So welcome to at Collect Call From, or you have a Collect Call From. It looks like the first hearing is about to be starting up for the day.
All right, so far I have Clarke. Coffin's on his way. He was at work.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And who did?
Coffin.
Okay, okay, got it. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
This is Clarke. I'm just waiting for Coffin to come, and Hall is on his way.
Thank you.
And if in between you need the other guy, he's here still, Caswell.
Yes, he's gonna go last.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All set. Yep. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today's Friday, December 20th, 2024. And this is a hearing of the Connecticut Boards of Pardons and Parole. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning. I'm panel member Barry.
Good morning, Robert Sazowskis.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record, Mr. Clarke.
Charles Clarke, 312-238.
Mr. Clarke is serving a sentence of 10 years, execution suspended after 4 years jail, followed by 4 years probation for robbery by carjacking, robbery third, assault on a public safety officer, larceny second, and evading responsibility, physical injury. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of 11/25/2024 at 85% due to receiving his sentence modification recently. There is no victim input in this case. The offender has an offender accountability plan. A review of the plan shows the offender has completed anger management in Tier 2 and remains on the wait list for vocational needs and a job. Utilizing the statewide collaborative risk evaluation system scores the offender overall score for recidivate and fall within the high range. Mr. Clarke, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
Well, first, I'd like to say that, after doing this time, I've realized how much my behavior has affected my family, the community, and the victims in general. I'm really sorry for what I did. My addiction is the reason that I was doing the things I was doing, and I know that's not an excuse. When I'm clean, I'm not the same person as who I am when I'm using. And as well, I have mental health issues. The robbery third happened, carjacking happened, because I was suicidal at the time. And
So,
like I said,
Mr. Clarke, I'm just going to caution you, and it's your choice whether or not you decide to continue disclosing the information that you're sharing with us. Our hearings are open to the public, and they're streaming over the internet to the entire world. And so to protect your privacy, we would advise you against sharing your health issues or your mental health issues specifically, because people can take that information and use it against you, you know. So it's up to you if you want to continue down that path, but we would just advise you that this is recorded and other people are listening.
okay.
Okay, so go
Yes.
ahead and continue with whatever you want to tell us. So we understand. So during that time, you were not yourself. You were, you didn't want to be here. We'll say that, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. And
When I'm doing the right thing, I do very well for myself. I'm always employed. I have a good support network that's in my life. I have 2 children and a grandchild. I am currently in contact with all of them. My son is, heartbroken by me being here. He's 7 years old, and, he's really excited about me coming to the end of my term of incarceration. And usually I've gone home to a sponsor, and I realized, I requested to go to a halfway house specifically because in the past, I've always gone home to a sponsor, and I find myself running around trying to hurry up and get things together because I don't have the financial means to accomplish the things that I set the goals for. And I am actually asking for a halfway house through parole because in 2006, when I went to a halfway house, I was there for 8 months. I completed the halfway house. I didn't do well after because obviously I wasn't ready to stop using drugs. I'm 40 years old now. This is 15 years ago, 20 years ago almost. And I'm not the same person that I was when I came in. I've really sat back and reflected. I've started doing step work and being involved in the NAAA program. I am only on the 4th step right now, which is taking a moral inventory of myself. Like my sponsor said, it's not a race. And I'm really taking my recovery serious right now. And I feel that it would be in my best interest, in my child's best interest, in my whole family's best interest, including the community, if I were given the opportunity to reintegrate into the community by going to a halfway house where I can get a job. I really want to go to school for my CDL, which I plan to enroll in upon my release. And I just feel that my best opportunity would be to be more prepared to be released on my discharge date by going to a halfway house where I can get myself a job. I have an offer of employment. I did forward the information to the parole woman that I met with. And
Officer Spelling?
Yes. And
Okay.
I don't know if she gave it to you. I gave the guy's phone number. He is a retired police officer that offered me the job. He works for a lawyer's firm and he happened to meet me and he was very confident that I can do well upon my release and said that he would be willing to help me in any way that he can and offered me a job which would be in Vernon at a restaurant for a friend that he has that owns a restaurant. And I just honestly, I really feel like my best chance of reintegrating properly into society this time would be to go to a halfway house first so that I can get on my feet, get financially stable, and so that I can be in my son's life and my daughter's life and my granddaughter's life, and as well it'd be in the best interest of society because I can deal with my mental health issues as well as my addiction issues. I could get proper treatment in a halfway house that I can't get in here. I've done the program.
So, Mr. Clarke, you're starting to repeat yourself.
Okay.
So, we understand that you're choosing a different avenue this time when you're released out into the community. You believe that a halfway house will be a best fit for you so that you can ultimately become the best person that you can with the assistance of the structure of the halfway house, and they will assist in your obtaining employment and your mental health issues and needs and all that stuff. So we understand that, and we appreciate your attempt to explain to us what you intend to do when you are released out of the facility. I'm sure you've been before the parole board before, so you know how this works. Each of us will take turns asking you questions, then we'll deliberate and give you our decision, okay? We do wish you the best of luck, sir. Mr. Sazowskis is going to begin with the questions.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I listened to your opening statement and I heard you talk about the halfway house and your plan to try to do better when you get out. I also read that you were denied for a halfway house by DOC already.
Yes.
What was that about? Why were you denied a halfway house?
I had bought a ticket right before I had applied for a halfway house, and it was due to a relapse that I had while incarcerated for smoking marijuana.
See, that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so now, I mean, that's something that you caused, you know what I mean? So you have to find a way to get into a place where you can avoid those kind of situations. It's going to hurt you in programming all kinds of ways when you get those nonsense tickets, especially if you're trying to change your life around,
Yes.
All right. I see you completed the Tier 2 program, this incarceration, and clearly reading through all the documents and then hearing you speak, you confirm that big part of what we're talking about and your problems has been drug addiction in the past, right? That you've struggled, and you've been clean and then go back and then back and forth, and even while you're incarcerated, you're still struggling. Can you tell us some of the things that you remember learning in the Tier 2 program that you think you can take out into the community that might help you?
Yes. So my relapse was in February, and when I relapsed, I really thought about what the decisions I was making and how they were affecting my life and my family, and how it can affect the community in the future. And so I took out the booklets and I started looking at the coping skills that I can use. And one that I use daily now is I use a thought process journal, where I write down the situation, my role in the situation, where the situation ended up, how I could have made a better decision in the situation, what effects it has on who, and why it has those effects on those people. Also, that's when I started doing step work. So I've been doing the step work since February, and like I said, I'm only on the 4th step as of right now, which is taking a moral inventory. I feel that I've connected with a higher power at this point. I believe that there's something greater than me that is helping me, because now I've learned acceptance through the program, of taking other people's advice instead of trying to make my own decisions without asking other people what they feel would be the best choices to make that are in the program.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, to speak to people that have been in your situation, right? And then have overcome that, come out on the other side. Those are the people that can help you. You know what I mean? Like having a sponsor and that kind of thing, of somebody that understands what you're going through and can give you some advice. Because, looking at your record, you really have had a troubled past. There are a lot of violations of community release in here. Were you on parole when this incident on the highway happened?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, it looks like that they violated your parole. You had a technical violation because of all of that. I mean, I read through those reports. It's just, I don't want to get into private medical situations and discussions, but it sounds very chaotic. I don't know if you recall everything that happened. It sounds like you jumped off a bridge abutment at one point. It's surprising you survived that incident, to be honest with you, because it just sounded really wild and chaotic. And I can only imagine what was going on with the people that were on the highway and involved in this. So do you remember that incident?
To be honest, I really don't remember much of it at all. I do remember what led up to the incident, and it was my use of drugs and not taking my medications. And to be honest, that was the worst I've ever been in my life, and I regret it, and I'm ashamed of it. Yeah,
I mean, it's just by the grace of God, by pure luck, that somebody didn't get killed. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just really chaotic, and it's a public safety issue. You know what I mean? So you have to find a way to maintain some stability in your life so that those kinds of things don't happen and then start affecting the entire community. Family, just people out there in the community, everybody. It's a ripple effect of people that you've affected over many years. I'm going to move on a little bit. Do you think you've changed during this incarceration? You touched on it a little bit during your opening statement. I just want to hear from you a little bit more about how you feel like you're different now than you were when you came into the facility after this incident happened.
I definitely feel like I changed, because when I first came in, I felt like it wasn't my fault. And now I know it was my fault. I know I'm culpable of everything that I've done and the decisions that I make, whether I'm using drugs or sober. Once I use the drug, I'm still culpable, because even though I'm under the influence of drugs, I know that things can happen that I wouldn't normally do. And I've really accepted that, I need to control myself and not make the bad decisions where I relapse and use and put people in jeopardy, especially myself and, the people in the community. So, and on top of it, I really buckled down with making sure that I dedicate my time to doing positive things in here rather than running around with the negative crowds and dealing with negative people.
Okay. So we're just going to get into the tickets a little bit. Okay. So you completed Tier 2. You mentioned some of this. Completed the Tier 2 substance abuse program. That was in 2022. And then a year later, and then again in February. So in August of 23 and then in February of 24, you see reports for intoxication, you know what I mean, after testing positive for THC. And I know you talked about the relapse, but I'm just trying to understand, after you went through that program, and then how did you end up back? I mean, while you're incarcerated, having a relapse twice after you took Tier 2, it's concerning, because we're trying to determine your suitability, you know, if you're safe to be out in the community. And, you know, we just look at your record and then what happened in jail, and it's just the same pattern of going back and forth, you know?
So as I was saying, I had kept the packets from Tier 2. When I did Tier 2, as I said, I wasn't, you know, it was the start of my bid, which is not an excuse. I'm not making an excuse.
Yeah.
I didn't take it seriously. And, you know, on the second relapse is when I buckled down and I told myself that if I don't change, that there's no way I'm going to make it in society. There's no way I'm going to make it in here. I'm going to have to do all my time, which is completely unnecessary, because, you know, I know there's opportunities to be released early. And I took out the packets and I took all the advice that I can from there. And I got into the NAAA community, and I go to the meetings and I get involved. And I've written to try to get in every program that I can. Unfortunately, because it wasn't on my OAP, anything else, they haven't allowed me to do anything else. So like I've tried to do as much as I can. You know,
Okay.
to try to better myself.
You have to just remind yourself of the harm you caused yourself by getting those intoxication tickets, because, you know, you had denied for a halfway house by DOC because of that, right?
Yes.
And then it's just going to follow you. So the next time you get an urge or someone offers you and you're in some situation, you need to remind yourself of what's going to happen, those consequences of that. You know what I'm saying? Because at some point you're going to be reevaluated, probably, right, for a halfway house by DOC, right? You've received the sentence modification, and it looks like your end of sentence is coming up anyway.
Yes.
So you have some good things going for you. I mean, just try to stay positive. Listen, you've been, according to everything that I looked at, you've been clean since February. I mean, that's not a long time, but for you, I think that is a long time. And that's something that you should be proud of. And then just keep you know, every day it's going to be a battle, but you got to just keep going, you know?
Yes.
So like we talked about before, you've had trouble on probation. In fact, you were on parole, it looks like, when this incident happened. So that's obviously a concern for us, because we're here at a parole hearing trying to figure out, you know, if you're suitable, if you're at a place in your life that it's, you know, you're going to be suitable to be released in the community without problems. Can you talk about how you think you're going to be able to complete parole successfully with all the rules that are involved, despite all the problems that you've had with supervision in the past? What's different now, you know?
So I am on the methadone maintenance program. I've been on it for the last 3 years. I do have, well, I have aftercare set up because the fact that I am in methadone maintenance program. I do know in the community where the meetings are, how to find access to the meetings. I know where to find the help for my mental health issues. I've already taken the time. Our tablets that they give us now have a whole bunch of programs in there. So I've filled up a composition book of the areas that I was thinking I might end up going if I were granted a halfway house. And I've written down everywhere that I could go to get all the different types of help, from addiction to mental health to just even housing, clothing, food, to help me so that I don't go back to doing the same things. I've set up a 30-day plan, a 60-day plan, a 90-day plan, and a 1-year plan. I didn't bring that with me because we were actually packing our stuff to move to another block, and I didn't know where it was at the time. But in the first 30 days, it was basically just to, obtain my IDs, make sure that, I contact whoever my officer is or however that works, to make sure that I put in job applications right away to get a meeting schedule so that that way I can make sure that the area that I'm in, that I can go to every meeting that there is, and to look for a caseworker. I don't know if I would be provided with one due to mental health leaving DOC, but I plan on looking for a caseworker to help me basically guide myself into the community that I would be released to.
Okay. I mean, those are all good things. I'm glad to hear that you're planning these things out. Do you remember doing that in the past when you were incarcerated? Were you doing these kinds of things before you were released?
No, I've never made a plan for getting out before.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing that. You do have probation also to follow, right? You understand that, so you're going to have some support regardless if you go to a halfway house through us or DOC. There's going to be additional support for it looks like 4 more years. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Talking about support, it's just my last question, sir. Can you mentioned in your opening statement, but I just want to go into a little bit more because it's important for people to have people in a community that are living sober, clean lives that they can have support from to help them. So have you talked to family or friends about your potential release and that you might need to rely on them? Do you have a support system out in the community?
Absolutely. My youngest sister has had 3.5 years clean, and she's very connected in the sober living community in Hartford. My older sister has been clean since 2007, and she is well connected in the community that she's in. She's in Willimantic, where my son and my son's mother are. I've talked to my son's mother, and we've discussed that, a lot of times that I've needed help. I've been afraid to tell her because I feel like she would keep my son from me. And we finally talked about it, and she said that I need to open up to her and be honest with her. And when I feel that way, that I need to tell her so that she can help me. My mother is very big in my life. She goes to Al-Anon, and she knows a lot about the meeting. So I have a lot of people already in the meeting network. I have a pen pal sponsor through the Middletown NAAA program, and he told me wherever I go that if I need to transfer sponsors or if I want to keep him through the phone, that he would help me as well. And as I said before, I know how to get the meeting schedules. I know about the websites to get the meeting schedules, and for the most part, that's my network. Plus, as I said before, the police detective that was working for the law firm I was dealing with also told me that he can help me out as far as connecting to roots in the community, especially with recovery, because he was a narcotics detective for 20 years. So I think he's going to be a big time support at this point, because I've never had somebody who has been fully rooted in a community like that before.
Yeah, I would, regardless of what happens here today, sir, I would, stay in touch with all of those people. That's what you need. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid to call that person, that detective, your sister, the other people you know in Middletown. When you start feeling an urge, don't wait till you're on the highway, jumping off a bridge. You know what I mean? Don't wait for that. As soon as you start feeling you're going in a bad place, you need to get a hold of somebody. And before it gets to a point where the community's in danger and you're putting other people at risk of being injured or killed, you need to get a hold of somebody. You know what I mean? It's your responsibility, you know what I mean, to, as a citizen, to not endanger everyone else, you know what I mean, because of your act. So I appreciate you answering all my questions. Good luck today. I'm going to pass it back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sosowskis. So, Mr. Clarke, you talked a great deal with my colleague about your plan for sobriety, your support in the community, and some of the things you need to explore when you're back in the community. And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But I want to talk about your offense and the impact that your actions have had on the victim. And you do realize that there are victims in your case, right? And you haven't completed the Voices program yet, right?
Yeah, I haven't completed the Voices program. They just put it on my OAP yesterday. Like literally
So just imagine you're driving down the highway. There's a crazy person in the middle of the road, and he's pulling on doorknobs to try to get into people's cars. What do you think the impact of your actions had on this victim I don't even know what you did to her. Did you hit her?
Honestly, I don't know. The police report says she said that I reached across her and I got blood on her, and then the police say that I hit her. But I didn't read her statement saying that I hit her. So to be totally honest, I don't know. But I'm positive that it had to have a serious effect on her. I mean, I know that if that were my daughter or my mother or anything, that, they would be petrified. And I completely understand that. And
exactly.
I
you sat on her basically. Like you would, I mean, you were so tunnel focused on getting out of there, even though you were where you going. You disobeyed the officers. They had to tase you more than one time, and it still didn't stop you. And I'm just, while I can appreciate, and many people say the same thing that you do, that I'm not the same person when I'm sober, and we understand that. However, when your substance abuse starts intertwining with regular people who are going about their regular day in this world, and you are terrorizing them because you're under the influence, that's problematic for us. It absolutely is an issue for us. And I asked you, I said to you at the beginning that I appreciated what you said in my discussion with my colleague, but I'm just going to read this to you because you had a discretionary parole hearing back in February of 2020. And here's what the panel wrote. So Mr. Clarke failed 7 out of 12 opportunities at community release. She said that you were stealing food from the kitchen and you got some intox tickets when you were at that last hearing. She said you took the Tier 2 program and you had just began taking the anger management. But this is what she says you said. During the hearing, Mr. Clarke spoke about working on himself, specifically dealing with his mental health issues. He reported that he was previously unwilling to do so because of the stereotypes and beliefs. This is the reason for his repeated relapses. He described his main focus as being in recovery so that he can be a father to his 2 children. His release plan includes a sober house, which his mom and his sister will pay for, as well as going to meetings and finding a sponsor. He was in the step work. All sounds like the same thing. Information you just shared with us. Almost to the letter. And because of that, they voted you to parole because they wanted to give you that opportunity, sir. And you still came back with new charges. So while I'm happy that you are absolutely working on yourself while you're in there, I just find it very difficult to believe that, especially with the recentness of your disciplinary infractions, that you are going to go out into the community and remain at liberty without committing any additional convictions. At 40 years old, you still rate out high in terms of risk to recidivate. And for me, I just don't believe that you are in a position right now to go out and make better choices. And I hope that I'm wrong. I really do hope that I am wrong. However, based on this information that I have here today, I cannot support your discretionary parole. Okay, thank you. Ms. Chance?
Yeah, so Mr. Clarke, I listened to your opening comments, and you talked about the effect of your behavior on your family and your community. And you said when you're clean, you're not the same person. And that your changes are due to your mental health. and that you were always employed, you always had a good support network. You're now in the NA programs and you're working on the STEP program. The last time that Madam Chair talked about you working on the STEP program, you were on step number 3. Today you say you're on 4. I'm just looking at your history, and you've always blamed your committing the offenses on your mental health, and each time that you're given the opportunity to go out and work on it, you don't. You sit there and you make statements to the parole panel of what you're going to do. That time, you said you were, as the chair said, you chose to go to a sober house. Now you're picking a halfway house. And so each time, you're changing where you're going and trying to say why you're going there because you think it's going to be better for you. So halfway house doesn't work. Sober houses don't work because here you are today. And I truly listened to everything you said, but I went back to your previous 2015 hearing when they denied your parole and you had, similar intox ticket, you had completed voices and, had talked about the same impact of what you're saying today. So from back then to today and in between, you're saying the same stories and the same changes, but you're not doing anything to change. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Clarke?
I understand what you're saying.
So, I know in the addiction world that, you're really not ready until the light bulb goes off. So you have to decide that and not come up with this information that in your own mind, is not true and or may not be true and may not be right. Because maybe you're just not ready. And it's obvious during this incarceration with the DRs that you have received that you probably still have some more work to do. And, perhaps for whatever time that you have there, you might really think about what is really going to work for you. Your mental health is important, and you haven't made any commitment to really addressing it and sticking to it. And then you commit offenses and blame it on the mental health. So I do think you have a lot more work to do, Mr. Clarke. So I just want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. So, Mr. Clarke, I think you know what my position is. We're going to deliberate now. You can listen and sit there and we'll give you our official decision, okay? Mr. Sadowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Mr. Clarke is 40 years old, sits before us today after committing an offense while he was on parole in the past. And this offense is particularly concerning, as we all talked about, because of the impact it had on innocent victims, people just living their normal lives, and his problems are starting to affect other people that have nothing to do with him. So, he spoke today, and I was really glad to hear it, and that he is taking the steps to head in the right direction. I feel like that, like my colleague mentioned, hopefully this is the time the light bulb goes off for him, and he takes these things seriously. And if not for us or anyone else, maybe for his family, his kids, to try to make the best of himself to be the best person. He rates out high. He has a concerning record of violations of parole, probation. Like you said, he's been to the board several times before. He's not completed all the programs that are on his OAP. And I'm particularly concerned with the fact that he completed Tier 2, a substance abuse program. It's meant to help him, and then has since relapsed while incarcerated twice, one of them this year. So for me, not enough time has passed since he's been clean. And, I'm concerned that his current offense was committed while he was on parole. And I don't think at this point that he's reached an adequate level of change for me to be satisfied that he can be suitable to be released on a parole. So unfortunately for me, it's a denial today. I encourage him to keep on his path. Hopefully he can reapply for DOC halfway house. And if not, he'll be released soon.
Yeah.
And be on probation.
Yep, he is almost done. And I agree, like, it really does seem as if he's trying to change. He has more work to do to prove that he's changed. I think the sentence modification was evidence of same, and hopefully that is the positive, the motivation that he needs to really continue on this path. What's the thing about,
There's the video flows. Oh, I don't know, they signed off.
Might be trying to get your phone. It's different. It should jump back in
Okay.
because they're all still there. They probably just have issues on their side. I'm sure the easier. It doesn't kick in, I'll get off and let them remove.
Maybe, oh, let's go. Okay. Well, we're playing a waiting game.
When I emailed her and she didn't reply yet. Technical difficulties, guys, slight delay.
That's not gonna be there.
They keep saying leave. Okay, I'm on there now, and we just see us here, and then we see all the stuff on the side with the panel information and whoever's joined there. Oh, like the conference ID and stuff? I see a meeting ID on the tablet. You want me to get that? Okay. Mhm. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, she's trying it now. And give me 1 second, I see something here. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay, 1 second. So tiny. Can you hear us? Hello? So I was able to join the phone number. It's on mute on your end. I can't unmute it on my side. Yeah, so it's on the screen like as if it was, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we've unmuted on our end.
Okay, can you hear me?
You heard her? Are you able to turn the volume?
Can you hear us on this end?
Yes, you're coming up. We can hear you.
Okay, is this perfect what you need, or you need me to do anything else on the tablet? Because he's still in the room.
As long as he's still in the room, and he's unmuted, so it does go out to the Teams meeting.
Yeah.
This should at the moment.
Okay, it is unmuted.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, he's ready. He's still here.
Thank you. We're gonna
You're welcome.
stand a second. We're gonna mute us again just for a moment to make sure everything's good on our end.
Okay.
Okay.
Take over right now.
Yeah. There's, there's a lot more participants waiting in the lobby. So, people to the improvement.
Hello, Mr. Clarke.
Yes.
You won't be able to see us, as you know. We're having technical difficulties. So
Okay.
as long as you express clearly, we're going to continue. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you, Officer Williams, for your assistance with this.
You're welcome.
Okay. So are we back on recording? Officer Smelly? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, we're ready.
Okay. So we're back on the record with Mr. Charles Clarke 312238. And I think that Ms. Chance was deliberating.
I believe I've already stated to Mr. Clarke where I stand in terms of his request for parole today. I am concerned about the fact that he completed the Tier 2 program, yet he received 2 additional disciplinary reports for Ronnell and intoxication after completing the Tier 2. In addition, what I heard from Mr. Clarke today is the same ongoing story that he shared with the panel in 2015 and 2020 in February, when he was granted discretionary parole, where he was released to a sober house, and he indicated at the time that his mental health and his medication was a priority for him, that he was going to attend NA&A meetings and seek a sponsor, and it's obvious that he hasn't done that. So I do think Mr. Clarke has some more work to do in terms of how he's going to maintain his sobriety in the community. So for me today, it's denied.
Okay. So I think we're all on the same page. I have Mr. Clarke denied based on the nature and circumstance of his offense. His poor institutional adjustment gives 9 disciplinary infractions. And Is there anything else that either of you would like to add as a reason for denial?
Inadequate evidence and the change.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Clarke, we're ready with our official motion. With regards to Charles Clarke, 312238, I move that discretionary parole be denied based on the nature and circumstance of the offense, his poor institutional adjustment, and inadequate evidence of offender change. He will not receive a new hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Clarke, unfortunately, we couldn't support your discretionary parole, sir. We do wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's the officer, and Mr. Caswell. This concludes the hearing for Charles Clarke, 312238.
This is the one from Caswell.
Hi.
Hi. Can you sit? I think we're ready for Caswell if Melissa's ready. I think we're just.
Caswell? Caswell next?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, come on, Caswell.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, just state your name for them. You got a seat.
Christopher Caswell.
Christopher, Mr. Caswell, just give us a few minutes. We're having some technical difficulties, so you cannot see us. And right now, there seems to be a delay on the internet part, but we're getting our Office of Victim Services on the line so that we can proceed, okay?
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Madam Chair, you ready to go? Is she ready? Okay. All right. Yes, I am all set. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Officer Kelly. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2020. This is the hearing of the Connecticut Board of Paroles and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing. Good morning, I'm Channel Member Barry.
Good morning, Robert Zazowski.
Good morning, Joy Chan.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record, sir.
Christopher Caswell, 263854.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Christopher Caswell, 263854. He is serving a sentence of 30 months jail for a criminal violation of protective order, 2 counts of assault, third, risk of injury, violation of probation with underlying illegal operating a motor vehicle under the influence, third. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of 5/29/2025 at 50%. There is victim input in this case. We also have our Office of Victim Services Advocate, Ms. DeSouza, on the line with victim input. The offender has an offender accountability plan. A review of the offender has not completed any state. He remains on the wait list for voices, addiction services, domestic violence, and anger management, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system scores. The offender overall score for recidivate falls within the moderate range. Mr. Caswell, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
Okay, I had a very lengthy and hard drinking problem. I was on home confinement for a year before I came in on this sentence, and I didn't violate it once. I had become sober. I attained sobriety before I came in during my home confinement, and my common denominator, my problem is that alcohol, and when I drink, I don't control my anger. And bottom line is I just can't drink anymore. And my life, a year before I came in, by not drinking and being so sober, I didn't get arrested once, and I really come to realize what kind of horrible person I was.
Okay, Mr. Caswell, I appreciate that, that opening statement. I wish that you really would have talked a little bit more about your victims and the victims involved in this case. I do appreciate your acknowledging that alcohol is a problem for you and it fuels some of your criminal behavior. Is there anything that you would like to add since I've made the statement about the victims?
Yes, ma'am. One of the victims was my niece, and we had a difference of opinion, and I didn't control my anger. I was intoxicated and I was at fault, and I'm very sorry for that. And I hope that one day me and her can rekindle our relationship. I love that little girl very, very much. And my girlfriend that I got arrested also for getting into an altercation with, we were both drinking, and if I wasn't, it's my fault. Whether she was drinking or not, it's my fault. If I wasn't drinking, I could have subdued or walked away from the problem. It's everything that I'm in here for is directly my fault, and they are truly the victims of my drinking and my actions when I drink.
Okay, I appreciate that apology, Mr. Caswell. What about the little girl that was hiding in the basement, or because
that was my niece, my youngest niece, and I did not know she was at the house, and he should not have been subject to that. Like I said, if I wasn't drinking, I wouldn't have gotten in a fight with my older niece, and my youngest niece wouldn't have had to hear that, and then she'll remember that the rest of her life. There's nothing I can do to make that better except show her that I'm not drinking and that I love her very much. And I'm sorry.
Caswell, tell me, how long have you, what's been your longest period of sobriety when you've been out in the community?
I went 2 to 3 years sober in early 2000s.
And I saw that you were in treatment for a year in 97. Was that a few years after that, or how?
Yes, it was. I went to that treatment. I went to that. I was required to do that through a DWI. And then when my daughter was born in 2000, my youngest daughter, I quit drinking I had gotten a DWI shortly after she was born, and I quit drinking for 2 to 3 years. And what makes my case worse is I was a very functioning alcoholic, which is, I think, worse than a non-functioning alcoholic, because it just kept going and going. I never hit rock bottom like I have this time.
Okay. And so do you remember what caused you to relapse when you were clean? It looks like you were clean for about 2 years. Because your daughter,
yes.
You said, was born.
My daughter was born. What caused me to relapse is no fault of nobody else but myself. But I was having marital problems, and I wanted to get numb to it, and I started drinking again. And that only snowballed my problems.
Okay. Well, I can certainly understand that. And, unfortunately, most times when people become addicted to substances, it's because they're trying to self-medicate to kind of suppress those feelings that none of us really want to feel. But, it's unfortunately, it's a part of life. Marriages end,
a lot of people, including myself, not to interrupt, a lot of people, including myself, don't realize, and in the past year, before I was incarcerated, I've come to realize this, is alcohol is the #1 drug in the world, the worst. Because every other store in public is either a package store or a bar room. It's socially accepted at a christening, a graduation. It's an absolute poison that should not be allowed in this world.
Well,
that's why we all have choices. So, Mr. Caswell.
You're absolutely right.
To consume, responsibly. All of the, it says that even, we should consume responsibly. All right, so let's move forward. I'm glad to hear you accept the fact that you're an alcoholic and you have an issue with alcohol.
Yes.
So let's.
But I have been sober for a year before I came in. I was on home confinement and I had to take weekly drug and alcohol tests.
I wrote that down.
And that was one of the greatest gifts that the state of Connecticut has done to me, believe it or not, is I was under a strict 24-hour home confinement except for work, legal, and medical. And I relocated right next to my job so I could walk to work. And I didn't let anybody know where I lived, anybody at all, family or anything, because I had to get away from the alcohol and the people that drank alcohol in order for me to find my sobriety.
Right. Did you go through any kind of treatment?
I tried to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and Liz Lucas, my probation officer, told me that I was on a 24-hour home confinement, and she'd rather I didn't do it unless it was cleared with the courts.
Okay. All right. So you know that
I had a GPS bracelet on my ankle, ma'am.
Okay. And were you required to participate in any kind of domestic violence treatment when you were out there waiting to be sentenced?
Yes, I was going to see a counselor, Jessica Marshall, and she was doing, because I was on the home confinement, every Sunday we would do for the whole year, and actually for probably a year before that, I can't tell you the exact date, every Sunday I would talk to her on a virtual, through counseling and therapy.
Okay, so that was individual therapy though, but nothing that was geared toward domestic violence or anger management?
I was in a previous domestic violence case, I was ordered to take counseling for that, and I just continued it. After that case was done, I opted to continue going to see her for the domestic violence.
Okay, so my issue though is that you still violated the protective order and received some assault third, your current offense. So that's my issue. And so for me, you have a number of programs that are still listed on your offender accountability plan, and you haven't completed any of those just yet. While I appreciate your being clean and sober and working on yourself when you were out in the community, we really don't have any proof of that information. And so that's why they still put, when you were sentenced, that's why they gave you that offender accountability plan so that you could, work on some programs through the Department of Corrections.
Yes, I have, not to interrupt, I have, when I came in here in April, once every 2 weeks, I wrote to the counselors in here requesting to go through anger management, domestic violence, and the alcohol addiction services. I was told that I'm not required to do the anger management, and I argued with them. Not argued, but I tried to explain it to them that I wanted to. Domestic violence, they just recently put me in that, and I have 16 requests where they said that I was on the list. I've been trying to go into them.
So when did you start domestic violence?
I started that in the very beginning of this month.
Okay, so in December, so the first week of December?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
And you don't know where you fall for the addiction services or any of that on that wait list. Is that right?
I asked correction. I asked Mr. Keene, and he said that I have no anger management requirement, and he said that I just have domestic violence. And I said, can you please enroll me in them anyways? And he goes, let's get through this first.
I understand that. So what I'm saying, so they've told you to get through domestic violence first, and then they'll worry about the other things on your OAP. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, now that you've seen the board, and you know, there really are no guarantees, but for me, I really could not support your request for discretionary parole today because I needed to complete some of the programs. The thing is that you're flat sentence at this point, and it's slated to expire in June of 2026. And I do believe that there are other programs that you need to take, but now that you've appeared before the board, hopefully that will help you get into some programs a little quicker. And then I would have you come back before us to see what another panel believes, whether or not you're suitable based on what the information that you've retained from participating in the program, and you know, your relapse prevention plan and things of that nature, your support in the community. We take into account all of those things, and we also consider the number of disciplinary infractions that you've received since you've been there. And it doesn't look like you've had any yet, so I would assume that you won't have at your next hearing should my colleagues agree with me. So as long as you're able to participate in the programs, refrain from receiving any disciplinary infractions, and come back to us with a viable relapse prevention plan and release plan, I think that you would be in better position to be deemed suitable. That does not guarantee that you will receive discretionary parole. I just think that you will be in a better position in terms of your risk when you return.
Okay. I have my ASU in here. I mean my IOP. It says domestic violence. It says addiction services unit, ASU. Yeah. Which I'm not sure what that is. I'm in the anger. I'm in the domestic violence, and then it says voices.
Yep, and voices is a victim impact. So we need you to take all those.
Okay. And the victim impact. I wrote everybody on the program list, and they keep saying that I'm on the list. I don't understand how I can. If you can help me, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, we will. So what happens since you've seen us now, we have Officer Smelly here. She will, convey to the counselors there in the facility that you appeared before the board and that we need you to take some programs. And so hopefully that will move your name up on the list.
Okay.
So that.
Okay. All right. So I see you in the future, or I.
So this is just one. I'm panel member Barry, and I'm just one of the members that's on your panel today. So I'm going to give my colleagues an opportunity to ask you some questions as well to see what their thoughts are. I haven't decided. That's just my position. Do you understand?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Ms. Chance will ask you questions now.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Caswell, you completed the DUI home confinement program. When did you complete it?
In roughly 2020.
I didn't hear.
2020. Oh, the internet's coming back, guys.
It might have been in 2021. It's within 2020, 2021. I completed that.
Okay, and were you living with your wife at the time?
I was not.
So, which year were you sober for 1 year? After you completed the program?
Can you say that again? I had that hearing. I'm sorry.
Which year did you say you were sober?
That was back in 2002.
Yeah. So, how helpful do you think the home confinement program was for you?
Oh, there was a DWI home confinement, but I was put on the home confinement program. This recent one, while I was bonded out, while I was going through my court case this time. That's when I went sober this last year.
What was the date?
It was 2024.
Right. So that program was supposed to assist you with staying sober. And I heard you say that you thought you were, or you used to be, a functioning addict. So what do you think you are now?
I am a recovering addict, and I will be for the rest of my life.
Mm.
I will always have to battle alcohol.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been sober?
I have been sober since, I want to say, April of 2023.
So, according to the PSI, you were positive for alcohol, I think, January 11th of this year.
Yes, that was, if you contact the probation officer, she asked me if I was a diabetic. I said yes. I was not. It was, if you're a diabetic on metformin, it shows a positive, negative, and that's why she didn't violate me for that. I was not drinking that day at all. I was sober, and I went in and seen her.
But it shows up as positive because the report did say alcohol.
Yes, that's why she had me send her a picture on my phone of my diabetic medication. She said that I would have been, that's why she asked, because I would have been literally almost dead, because it would have said that I was that drunk. I did not drink at all that whole time. And she said she would have violated me if I was actually drinking.
Do you think that program helped you, Mr. Caswell?
Very, very much. Very much.
Tell me how it helped you.
It ensured that I stayed home, and I had to take tests without having to take a drug and alcohol urine every week. I probably would have continued to drink.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good, Mr. Caswell. I do agree with the chair that you need to take additional programs. You have not done well because you have 6 previous failed community releases, and I just don't know when you're going to get your act together. But I do agree that there's a lot more work that you need to do. You need to have a really solid relapse prevention plan, and you have to figure out what your urges and cravings are and how you're going to address them. And so far, you haven't talked about any of that. So I do think you have a lot more work to do.
Okay.
What do you think you need?
I need to, my number one thing is to remain sober and very patient and calm with every decision I make.
Yeah. So you need to stay sober, but you have to say how you're going to stay sober. And that's what you need to work on. Okay. Thank you, Caswell. I'm all set.
Thank you.
Question.
Thank you, Ms. Terrence. Mr. Kubowski?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Caswell, good morning.
Good morning.
So, it sounds like my colleagues and I, we have not made a final decision here, but we sound like we all have very similar opinions after reading through your documents. So, instead of asking you some questions that you've already answered and my colleagues have already asked, I just want to talk to you quickly about a couple of areas that might be risky for you between now and a potential next hearing. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
So my colleague mentioned that disciplinary reports. So you haven't had any, but I would just keep that in mind. If something happens, that's going to hurt your suitability in our mind. If you get a disciplinary report, it's not going to help you. Okay.
Yep.
And then the other thing I want to talk to you about is that do you know that you have 2 protective orders against you?
Yeah,
Okay. And you know what that means when you have a protective order against you?
yeah,
Okay, so you can't contact people, these two people, indirectly or directly, anything like that. Do you understand that? If something
Yes.
like that were to happen, yeah, so you understand, if you were to, you can violate a protective order while you're incarcerated through contacting them through social media, another person, anything like that.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, yeah. So just be very mindful of that moving forward. And then the other thing I just wanted to talk to you about is, you talked about going back to your job as a union laborer, right?
yes, sir.
It's something that you've done before, and you have experience in that, and that's your career field.
29 and a half years.
Okay, so you know people, you have connections. Have you talked to anyone recently about a job, about going back to that work?
Yeah, I am still an active member, yes. My dues are paid up, and the minute I'm released, I was told they'll put me right to work.
Okay, for us, it's helpful for us, right? We want you to have stability and have a job. We want to see like a paper signed by someone that has authority saying that they will give you employment when you are released.
Yeah, there's a letter in my court case that my business agent for my union hall, Sean Gaska, he wrote stating that the minute I'm released, he will always employ me. I have a verification of employment.
Good. I would just encourage you to get something updated, more recent, and give it to the parole officer and have them submit it in the file. So before they review, they see that, yep, he's taken the programs, he has a job lined up, he's got support in the community. All of those things, all those boxes are checked off. No disciplinary reports, no problems with the protective order, and you'd be a more suitable candidate in the future, So that was, I just wanted to talk to you briefly about some of the things you can do between now and then. So that's all I had, sir. I'm going to hand it back to the Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sazowski. So, Mr. Caswell, we're done with our questions, sir. So we do have victim input on your case now. So we're going to ask that you be respectful of the person that is going to be giving a statement and not interrupt. And then when we're finished with that, we will deliberate and give you our decision. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Mr. Jesus.
Good morning, board members. I do have a statement, and it reads as follows. To whom it may concern, my name is Mackenzie Singleton. I'm writing this letter in regards to my uncle, Christopher Caswell, inmate number 263845. I never wanted him to go to jail. I just wanted him to get help for himself. He really, truly is a good guy. Anyhow, on November 29th of this year, I was diagnosed with stage 4. I'm not going to say what, since this is live stream, I'm not going to say exactly what her illness is. All I want is for my family to be together. So if you can please grant my Uncle Chris parole, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mackenzie Singleton.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Jesus. We appreciate that. And our desires is that Mr. Caswell also get the help that he needs, but he hasn't been able to do that just yet since he's been in the facility. So it's gracious of your niece who still loves you and she just wants you to be home. So that means that's more incentive for you to go back there and do what you need to do so that you can get home. The odds are not against you, but you do have to prove yourself. Okay. So I think that both of you know my position. I think it sounds like we're all on the same page in terms of him completing more programs and coming back before us. What date are we looking at?
I'm not in favor.
Of a year? Oh, okay.
And I can tell you why. Mr. Caswell has been involved since March of 1995 with DUIs, illegal operating under the influence, all the way down to his current offense. It's been 29 years. Just not in favor.
I'm in favor, Ms. Chance, only because of a rehearing, only because he's serving a flat sentence. And I think that it would benefit both the community and Mr. Caswell to be under some supervision. And again, I'm going to continue to say that a rehear date does not mean that you're automatically going to be released. It's just you have more work to do. So I do respect your position and I appreciate your sharing, Mr. Kazauskas.
Yes, thank you.
I can't talk.
It's okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I would like to have a read here too. You know, I would like him to complete these programs. I think it would be good, not for him, but not just for him, but also for his family.
Yeah.
And the community at large, and provide some motivation for him to complete those programs. Because he has a flat sentence.
Yeah. He's not even eligible until May of next year, so.
Yeah, so I wrote down October, but I would be open to earlier than that, of having him come back. Some of the tier programs are lengthy. It depends on what they put them in for addiction services. I don't know. But for me, without having domestic violence and addiction services at the least, right? Those other programs in addition to that would be helpful, but those ones for his specific situations, I think they have to be completed before I would be able to consider. So I am in favor
Of a
year. And I
So-
had October, but I'm open to, an earlier date if you think he can get them done before that.
So he's not eligible until May. And if we do June, a rehear date in June, that would give him about a year on supervision if he's granted parole. In the event that he's still participating in a tier 4 program, but if he stayed out of trouble and he's able to provide some substantive insight as to why he drinks and how he can control his drinking, if he's in the tier 4, he comes back, then I think that's it's still a 6-month program, right? So if we can do July of 2025 and see how he does, if it's a 6-month program, hopefully Officer Smelly can send something to the officer. We can't decide which program he'll be in. If it's tier 2, then tier 2, then he could do aftercare. He could do a ton of other programs.
Sure.
So we just want him to get some help. So
Fine with July.
okay, so we'll do July of 2025, and we'll do the programs on his OAP,
A relapse prevention
a relapse
plan.
prevention plan, a viable release plan. That we've talked about all the stuff with you already, so you know what our expectations are. And we will definitely put it in our written decision. So our reason for denial right now will be inadequate evidence of offender change and inadequate program participation.
That's
So,
what I have.
okay, so
Thoughts on some probation if we needed something.
yeah, well, if he's denied next time, they can add that, because
Okay.
we're having him come back, so.
Yeah, those are the two.
Okay. So with regard to Christopher Caswell, 263-854, I move to deny discretionary parole today based on his inadequate evidence of program participation and inadequate program participation and inadequate evidence of offender change. I further move to rehear Mr. Caswell. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that's it to the denial. We are going to rehear you, Mr. Caswell, in July of 2025. You should continue continue in the program that you're currently in, which is the domestic violence, and any other programs. Primarily, our primary focus is on the tier, but we would also like you to complete the voices and that domestic violence program that you're in, okay? No disciplinary infraction. And we'll see you in July, okay? Best of luck
Thank
to
you very much.
Thank
This
you.
concludes the hearing for Christopher Caswell, 263-854. You will receive all this in writing, Mr. Caswell, so you're all set, okay?
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
And I
All
did
right.
make a notation on Ms. Chance.
Thanks. You ready for me?
Hi, Mr. Coffin. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
We're great. We're about to begin, okay?
Sure.
Good morning. My name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today's Friday, December 20th, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Parole. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, I'm panel member Barry.
Good morning, Robert Sazowskis.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record, sir.
My name's Vance Coffin, 108962.
He did say it, 108962.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This hearing, he's serving a sentence. This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Vance Coffin, 108962. He is serving a sentence of 9 years with 3 years probation to follow for violation of probation with underlying larceny first, a violation of probation with the underlying burglary third, larceny third, robbery second with a weapon, dangerous instrument. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of August 14th, 2024 at 85%. There's no victim input in this case. The offender has an offender accountability plan or review of the plan shows he has completed tier 2 anger management and is tier 2 in anger management and is currently working. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system scores, the offender overall score for recidivate falls within the moderate range. Mr. Coffin, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
Mr. Coffin, just give us 1 second. Officer Smelly,
Yes.
just for the record, he's serving time for 2 violations of probation with a burglary third, one with a burglary third and one with the larceny 1 underlying. Is that correct?
Yes.
A new robbery second
Yes.
and a new larceny third.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm at the end of my sentence, in 2 months. I'm, yes. And so I was just wondering that, I was supposed to go to the board back in April and it didn't happen because they were waiting on a police report. That happened again in September and then they continued it until this date. I have a plan. I have a wife that I love very much and she stuck with me through this whole time. So the purpose of my asking for parole, even at this time, would be for her sake. I mean, I've learned everything I can about why not to come back by this point. So if I have to finish my sentence, I'm willing to do that. I'm asking for parole because my wife.
Mr. Coffin, can I just stop you for 2 seconds? So discretionary parole is something that is given to offenders when they serve a certain point in their sentences. So in your case, it's an 85%. So it's not an act. You're not asking for anything. You're statutorily not entitled to. You're statutorily you are entitled to receive a hearing. So we're not really here to grant or deny your request. We're here to discuss whether or not we believe you are suitable. So it's a suitability. So it's not, you're not asking us for anything. We're going to determine. Okay, so go ahead. I apologize. I just, because people think all the time that you guys you ask for this stuff and we get in trouble.
I'm just asking if you would grant it to me because of whatever that it was for her, not, you know.
I appreciate that.
I do have a wife, a home. I have job prospects for when I get out. I've never had a problem getting work. And at this point, as my age.
Am I reading something wrong? I saw that your last job was in 2015.
Yeah, that's why I've been in since then.
Okay. All right. We do have some questions for you, Mr. Coffin. Is it okay if we go ahead and start with our questions?
It is, shoot.
I appreciate that. So what will happen is we'll ask you the questions, then we will deliberate and give you our decision, okay?
Sure.
Ms. Chances, we'll begin with the questions.
So, Mr. Coffin, you say today you're asking for parole for your wife,
Yes,
but your wife is not the person that's in front of us.
right,
So I can't tell you that I'm going to give you because you're asking for your wife.
right.
So I'm looking at whether you're suitable
Okay,
to go out. And I'm going to start off with because you didn't have any comment other than saying you're asking for it for your wife.
yeah,
So you've been at this for 34 years of your 59 years that you have been
yes,
living.
ma'am. Yes.
So what's different, Mr. Coffin? It's been 34 long years.
Well, the difference is this time I faced some things throughout my sentence that brought me to realize that I'm getting older. And
Things like what?
like, like I don't want to be around prison. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I don't want to break the law. I don't want to be locked up away from the people I love and care about. It's not something that I'm built for anymore. I'm not built for this anymore. I don't know if that's an answer or not. I'm just not built for it. You know, I don't know. I just have issues that I just can't deal with while I'm locked up. I can't. I have medical problems that I'm going to have to deal with when I'm released, and I'm just too old for this. It's not conducive for my life anymore to be here, to be in jail for any reason. I don't ever want to come back.
So, Mr. Coffin, how do you think the public feels about what you and your brother have been doing for the last 34 years? And it's not just in Connecticut. You've done it in several other states.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can explain, well, I can't explain it, but I can say that the main reason that I've traveled to other states was to try to get away from my criminal career. But the problem is the drug problem that followed me with me. And it stayed with me here. And when you use, you got to make money. And it's not something I'm proud of. It's not something that I ever want to do again. I've been clean for 9 years. I don't have any desire to use again. I have a twin brother out there that you mentioned gets high when I'm talking to him on the phone. I don't want any part of it. It disgusts me. The person I was disgusts me. It's not nice to say, but it's not something that I need in my life anymore. I don't.
So at one point you said that you don't have the ability to make better choices because you're bipolar. And I don't want you to go into any details. I'm just repeating something that you said during your interview.
Yes.
So that's one thing that you said. And today you're saying that your criminal activity is due to your drug addiction.
Right.
So knowing that you have an addiction to drugs and a mental health problem, what have you done to address those two areas?
I'm taking all the classes I can here. The tier 2 drug programs and
when did you complete that?
Yes.
When did you finish the tier 2?
Tier 2 I finished in 2022. 2.
Do you remember what month?
It's gonna be it was during COVID. I don't, not offhand. I have the certificate and stuff, but I don't have it with me, so.
I wish you had the date because I'm gonna remind you of something. In March of 2020, you had an intox ticket. In November, you had 2 intox tickets on 2 different occasions in November of 2022.
The one in November of 2022, one was contraband, the other one was intoxication. That was my birthday.
Yeah, but the contraband was Putnam.
Yeah, it was my birthday.
Right.
And he was celebrating.
So you were celebrating.
I did.
And you had Putnam.
I did.
Right. And then it said that you appeared to be, you tested positive for alcohol also.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I told them I was drunk. I told them that I was drinking. They asked me if they knew it was my birthday, and they asked me if I was celebrating, and I said yes. I admitted to it. I don't have any regrets for that. I don't.
So, Mr. Coffin, you know, you don't have any regrets because I think you're being honest about what you're saying. But
I am.
If you say your criminal activity is due to drug abuse and mental health, yet you took the tier 2, but you have these, you know, tickets. And you're saying you don't regret them.
You're right. I don't.
How helpful was tier 2?
What
was your takeaway?
It was very helpful. You know, it talked to me. It explained to me about my choices I make and the decisions that I make behind it. And like I said, I am honestly. I can't say the difference between when I make a decision, and like it was my birthday, somebody asked me, oh, you want to celebrate? So we celebrated. I didn't think of the consequences of my actions. Tier 2 helped me decide whether I can do it or not, but I didn't at that moment because it was my birthday, I guess. I don't know why. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink on a normal situation. You know, and it doesn't excuse me from doing it. Like I said, I mean, I can't change what I've already done at all. You know,
But the problem is, Mr. Coffin, you can't change what you've done. But each occasion, because one of the things that you also said is that you took the drugs and committed the offense because of your daughter's death, and I am sorry for her death. But you indicated that was another reason why you were using drugs.
Yes,
so
I was
today,
sober up until then, though.
Yeah, but today, for me to find you suitable, you would have to come up with a relapse prevention plan and knowing what your triggers are, what your urges are, and what you're going to do when you get them, okay, to prevent you from using or taking drugs. And I don't hear any of that. And you have more than one different reason as to why you take drugs. And now you're telling me you don't drink, but you drank for your birthday.
I do. I did. And you know, I can't change what's already happened. I can't. But what I can do is look forward to my future. And whether you give me parole or not, I'm going to have one. You know, 2 months from now, whether you give me this or not, I'm walking out these doors to a home, to my loving wife, and to a family that I want and I'm going to enjoy for the rest of mine.
I'm glad to hear that. And I just want to say one other thing. From what I read, you appear to be very dependent on your wife, and I'm glad that you have someone there as a support.
She's my wife.
You know, you said that, you know, you have employment, and the last time you were employed, I showed you were at the Tanger outlet.
Yes.
And you were there for a number of years.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know what your plan is, other than you want to go to your wife. You have all these DRs that you're given an indication that you don't regret doing what you did.
It's just a birthday one. Just a birthday one. You know, I'm not going to regret it because, you know, I lost 30 days good time because of that. I regret that, you know, but I mean, what am I going to do? There's nothing I can't change it. I can't, nothing in my past I can fix.
But you can say going forward how you're going to prevent yourself from drinking and taking drugs when certain life events occur with you.
You're right.
You
and I mean,
that?
I can tell you I'm not going to use again. I can tell you I'm going to go to NA. And are you going to believe that? From what you're reading, are you going to believe it? You know, I can't. Much. No, I know. So I'm not going to come here with a list of things that I'm going to do that you're not going to believe. I have a wife that I've spent 9 years with this woman waiting by my side. Waiting. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to her so I don't come back.
I certainly hope that you prove me wrong, Mr. Coffin. And I hope, because my sense is that you don't have the relapse prevention and you're going to depend on her to keep you from using drugs and drinking. And well, I do hope it works for you.
If I can't do it for me, then I'll do it for her. That's it.
But the way
that's my relapse prevention.
Yeah. But the way it works is you have to take care of you first.
Yeah, but we've proven that doesn't work for me. I can't do it. I don't have that ability.
Okay, so she's going to help you to do it.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Vance. Mr. Sosowskis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just have a couple of questions. My colleague has covered most of my concerns, but a couple of things I wanted to just talk about. You mentioned that talking to your brother on the phone. So you're still in contact with him now?
I haven't talked to him in a couple months now. I called him on our birthday in November.
Okay. What is your plan? Have you thought about that relationship? He's out right now? Is he out?
Yeah, he's out. Yeah.
So have you thought about what that relationship's going to be like when you get out?
There is no relationship.
Well, he's always going to be your brother, your twin brother. I mean, twins are very close. I mean, but it has been a sore spot for you in the past. I mean, I'm looking at your records. He's been involved in a lot of this, you know? Yeah,
this has been something that I just, you asked me about stuff that I can do to keep drugs out of my life.
Yeah.
Well, one of them is cutting Vince out of my life.
Yeah. Unfortunately. And
I don't have a problem doing that at this point because he doesn't respect me enough to sit there and smoke crack with me while I'm on the phone. Then I don't need that in my life. I'm sorry, I don't.
I would highly encourage you, at least in the beginning, when you're trying to get stable, because one way or another, like you said, you're getting out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I would encourage you just to, try to focus on your family, your wife, like you're saying you're going to do, and let that situation with your brother go for the time being, at the very least.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, now let me ask you this, does your wife, drink, not alcoholic situation, but does she have a glass of wine with dinner, that kind of thing, your wife?
Not at all.
No.
Not at
So
all.
what happens next year on your birthday, next November, 2025, when you're out and it's your birthday and you guys go out to dinner or however you celebrate, you get a cake, whatever it is, you're not gonna drink?
Oh, I can have a beer or two. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a drinker. I don't even like being drunk. It's just a situation that happened. It was my birthday. I'm around a bunch of guys that I know.
Yeah.
It
I
came
get
up.
that.
And that was it.
And I understand what you're saying. A person that doesn't have the history like you do, doing something like that, having a couple drinks on their birthday, seems like it would be okay.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be okay, but for someone with your history, that could be a problem. You know what I mean? It could be a problem. So I would just, like my colleague said, I would be very cautious around celebratory life events, whether it's something good that happens like a birthday or in the unfortunate circumstance, as we get older, we have problems, you know, family and friends, people pass away, other things. That's another point when people have these setbacks, you know? So I would just.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
and you pointed out already, you know, an unfortunate death in your family is tragic to read about that. And then also you drank on your birthday. So, you know, those are the things that if I was you, when we talk about triggers, those are the things that I would be very careful about. If I, you know, you're going to be.
I wouldn't recommend a death in the family to anybody.
Yeah.
So,
all right. My colleagues asked all the questions, sir. So that's it for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Coffin, we're going to deliberate and give you our decision. You can listen. Please do not interrupt.
I will not.
Ms. Chance.
Okay. So, Mr. Coffin has had a very 4-year criminal history that was very extensive with his twin brother in several states. Today, I was hoping that he would have talked about a relapse prevention plan that would address his substance abuse and mental health. He did indicate that he does not have the ability to make better choices due to his mental health, that due to life-changing events, he uses drugs, and on celebratory days like his birthday, he drinks alcohol that he does not like. He came today with no way to share how he can identify his urges and cravings and what he will do when those offenses come about in his life to address. He is, from what he's saying, has not been able to stay clean and sober for himself. So he now wants to do it for his wife without taking the responsibility on himself of coming up with ways to stay sober. So for me, Mr. Coffin is not suitable today for parole, and I have him denied.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. Mr. Sazowskis?
I agree.
I have him denied as well. The reason for denial, Ms. Chance?
I had inadequate evidence of offender change for institutional adjustment and criminal history.
So do you have anything further? All right, so with regard to Vance Coffin, 108962, I move that discretionary parole be denied based on your criminal history, your poor institutional adjustment, and inadequate evidence of offender change. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Coffin, we've denied your discretionary parole. You won't have a new hearing, and we do wish you the best. Good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
You too.
This concludes the hearing. Vance Coffin, 108962.
I know you do. That's what you're looking for.
Is my name going in correct? Okay. Ronnell Hall?
Mr. Hall,
Yes, ma'am.
just stand by for us.
I'm sorry?
We're about to begin, okay, Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Good morning, my name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Parole. The following board members are present this morning and by state their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, I am panel member Berry.
Good morning, Robert Sazowski.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record, sir.
Ronnell Hall, 356-875.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Ronnell Hall, 356-875. He is serving a sentence of 18 years with 10 years special parole to follow for 4 counts of robbery first, firearm threat, conspiracy to commit robbery first, firearm threat, and 2 counts of robbery second. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of May 12, 2025 at 85%. There's no victim input in this case. The offender accountability plan was unable to be located. A review of the RT shows the offender has completed anger management, the Inside Out program, Tier 4, peer mentoring, Second Chance Pal, Alternative to Violence, Basic, Advanced, and Train the Trainer. He's also completed people, empowering people in vocational education, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system scores. The offender overall score for recidivate falls within the low range. Mr. Hall, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. Can you begin, sir?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last thing you said?
You may begin to express why to the board you believe you should be granted parole.
Thank you. I negatively impacted dozens of lives in ways I have spent 13 years wishing I could take back. I am sorry for every single crime I committed. I apologize to anyone and everyone impacted by the decisions I made. I apologize for the years my actions haunted so many people. Prison forced me to confront who I was and who I wanted to be. I decided that I did not want to devastate and damage people any longer. I remember reading the police reports and one person said they had nightmares after I robbed them. Another person said my actions made them trust people less. Their words forced me to realize that those were not the impressions I wanted to leave. There are 2 types of people, the ones who leave their mark and the ones who leave scars. Leaving a positive mark is the only correct response to the scars my criminal actions created. I am sorry for the days and nights of tears and suffering I forced upon so many. I hope every individual I impacted can forgive me so that their own hearts are not imprisoned by the shackles of trauma. I am sorry that I took from them what I could never give back. I now understand many things I did not at 23. One thing is that no one who harms anyone harms only one. So I apologize to those I robbed, as well as their loved ones. I am sorry for the moments their friends and families and partners suffered in solidarity with the victims of the robberies I committed. I apologize to the business owners of the places I robbed and the entrepreneurs
who heard about the robberies and feared that they may be next. An apology is a contract. It requires that we change our decisions today in response to yesterday's failures. My ticket-free status for over 13 years is a 4,800-day display of contrition. I have participated in and held leadership positions in multiple programs. I am invested in my own rehabilitation, as well as the rehabilitation of my peers. As a way out peer mentor, I learned and taught the impact trauma has on victims. A way out program revealed that what we say and do lives well beyond the moment we say it and do it. For better or worse, human beings shape each other in ways that cannot be taken lightly. For over 7 years, I have been an AVP facilitator. Because of AVP, I can identify my triggers and navigate them in a healthy way. Thanks to AVP, I look for win-win solutions, empathize with others, and acknowledge the inherent worth of all people. After completing Tier 4, I became a peer mentor. I modeled and encouraged the highest program principles, such as accountability, duty to community, self-awareness, and full immersion in the people, places, and things most conducive to a purpose-driven life and recovery. Tier 4 taught me to get help, not just when I need it, but before I need it. I also learned the value of healthy coping mechanisms and strong support systems. If granted parole, I would like to go to a halfway house in Waterbury or Bridgeport. I will be working with a CCAR recovery coach and participating in therapy. I look forward to volunteering in the community and being a shining example of what transformation looks like. I will use my CCAR recovery coach certifications to secure employment. I am devoted to a long career in empowering people to take their lives back from the grips of addiction. I intend to continue my education, and I am currently an Aslan Community College student. I have been in the America's Vet Dogs program for over 3 years, which inspired me to build a dog training business with a purpose-driven model. Post-incarceration, I will build my LLC, GPS Canine, part-time. I already have an EIN number, a domain name, a business email, and a virtual office. I have also used my financial literacy skills to prepare economically. I have accomplished these things due largely to my support network, who have been dedicated to helping me help myself. I am sorry for the pain I inflicted on others, the suffering my actions produced, and the life-altering choices I made 13 years ago. I apologize to all the people directly and indirectly harmed by the crimes I committed and the lifestyle I chose. I will spend the rest of my life building on a foundation I established while incarcerated. An apology is easier to come by than it is to live by. But I have lived apologetically, and I will continue to. And more importantly, I will lead by example and bring others with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall, for that statement. It was excellent. You covered a tremendous amount of ground. We do appreciate your apologizing to your community and to all the victims involved. And I liked what you said in your statement about something about leaving a mark and leaving a scar. And you want to now, your mark will be doing better and being better when you're out in the community this time. While you can't make up for the harm that you've caused all of your victims, I appreciate your accepting responsibility. And I also appreciate your apologizing to them and all the hard work that you've done to turn this negative into a positive. We know in science that brains are not fully developed until you're at least 26. And I show that you are 36 now.
Yes, ma'am.
So your brain's fully developed, and hopefully now you'll go out and start making better decisions. You've done a good job. So What's going to happen here is each of us will take opportunities asking you some questions. When we are done with our questions, we'll deliberate and then we'll give you our decision. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Sazowskis will begin with questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo my colleague's statement that was a very good opening statement. And I hope that during whatever time you have left in the facility that you could talk to other people and tell them how you came up with that and how you feel. Some people don't have the ability to put their words on paper like that and express themselves to us, you know, and it's very helpful. Just right off the bat, you just come forward with all that information. It helps us a lot, you know, to understand. So I know you're doing some mentoring. Maybe you can teach some people about that part of this process. I read that you had a problem with drugs and alcohol going back at the time of these robberies. You said have taken programs, and I heard you talk about Tier 4. On the day of these robberies, they were on different days over a stretch of time. Were you drinking? Were you drinking alcohol before this was taking place?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you talked about, I have a lot of questions you've already answered to, sir, so I'm going to try to skip around a little bit because you did go through a lot of stuff. You know, I heard a lot from you about how you understand now how your actions have affected the victims. And we want people to understand that it's the kind of thing that we're looking for when we have these hearings. And you seem to understand that. Did you take the Voices program?
Unfortunately, I did not.
Okay, because that's a lot of what they talk about. And I mean, you could probably teach that program by what you're saying. Those are the kinds of things that they talk about in that program. And the ripple effect. And it seems like you understand the magnitude of, it's not just a simple person at the register at that day. There are lots of people that have been affected by what you've done. Mm-hmm. You know, just their family members, it goes on and on and on. The stores next door, you mentioned all of that. Yep. Those are some of the things I was going to ask you about, and you've answered those in your opening statement. And I did see that you completed a lot of programs, including Tier 4, which is very important to us, and that you're a mentor now for other people that are participating in Tier 4. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So how does that help you being a mentor? How do you feel like that helps you?
So I think it allows me to kind of empathize and see myself in other people. But also it allows me to feel like on my worst days, I can impact someone else in a positive way, right? Sometimes in prison, things just don't go well. Sometimes in life, things just don't go well. I walked into prison with 2 living parents, and whenever I leave, I will be leaving with no living parents. But even on those days, I can find some solace in helping my fellow human being. And just knowing that the things I do have the potential to prevent other people from becoming victims, but also can give people a better quality of life as well.
That was very well said. And I'm sorry to hear about your parents. It had to be very difficult having been inside when those things took place.
Thank you.
And now you talked about CCAR too. You know, I'm going to talk a lot about your recovery and relapse prevention because, you know, sounds like at the time you were doing drugs and alcohol. And so those are the things you have to really be aware of when you go out. You know what I mean? And it sounds like, yeah. So it sounds like you recognize that, which is really good. But can you just talk a little bit about, more about your involvement with CCAR?
So CCAR, I personally feel like is a wonderful program. I think my encounters with the recovery coaches thus far have been extremely positive. I love their approach because it's very down to earth. It's very much about empowering the people who are receiving the services and really just allowing people in recovery to make the best decisions for themselves and trusting them while also guiding them to the resources that they need to be the best version of themselves. So upon release, not only do I want to work with a CCAR recovery coach, I want to be able to actually be employed as one and sort of be able to take my experiences and what I've gone through and be able to sit across from other individuals and say, hey, I get it. I know where you are right now. Everybody's journey is unique to them, but I understand what it is to get to the other side, and that's possible for you as well.
So, yeah, that's all good. I mean, you know, we hear other people come in and talk about CCAR. Some people do talk about in the beginning, possibly having to volunteer for a little while to get more involved and then finding your way to an employment situation. So that may be something that would you be open to doing that?
100%.
Yeah. Have you looked at where CCAR is located at compared to where you want to go?
So I haven't been able to yet, but it's certainly something that I intend to do immediately.
Yeah, so they're spread out around the state, so you should be able to find a place. But I would encourage you, when you start getting closer to the time you're going to be exiting, try to find, you know, those places that you want to volunteer, work at, and be involved with, so that you're more prepared when you go out, you know. But they are located all around the state, and you won't have trouble finding something close to wherever you are, really. Can you talk about the support you have in the community outside of CCAR and those kinds of things? I know you mentioned an unfortunate situation with your parents. Do you have other family members or friends that you've been in contact with?
I do. I've been really blessed to have my family support. You know, my grandmother, I have aunts, I have multiple sisters. And in addition to that, I have 3 friends who are all doing pretty well for themselves that I've known for 20 plus years. And they've been here steadfast and full support throughout my entire incarceration. So I'm really lucky, and I acknowledge that I'm wildly privileged to have so many people who have been here.
Some people come before us, they have no support, and they're going to be out by themselves, and it's harder. So having that group of people you described, these are people you talk to on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. So you're in touch with them, they know what's going on in your life and the things that you're doing. And then so when you get out there and you run into, and you know, just like when you're inside, not every day's a good day, right? So things happen. You need to have people that you can call and stay in touch with for that kind of support, so you don't fall back into any kind of old ways, you know? Can you talk about what you think might be your triggers, or what might be a risky situation for you when you get out that would lead you back inside?
I really just think I need to be aware of the kinds of things that I'm around, the places that I go, the people I associate with. I think that's really, really important. I don't believe that there's any excuse, though. The most important thing for me is knowing and understanding that tough times don't last, tough people do. I was in a really dark place prior to being incarcerated. And I just needed to know that those things are temporary and that we can kind of ride those different waves, and that things are not going to be perfect. Things are not always going to be smooth. But I trust my ability to get beyond those moments to something better. I think so long as I remember that and I just harness that same energy and power that I've done while I've been incarcerated, I trust myself, right? Because I let those temporary circumstances feel like they were the end of the world, right? And I responded that way, and I ended up on just a terrible path. So I really just think knowing that, you know what, I will get through this. I have the resources. I have people who care about me, who are invested in me. And I've really just come too far to allow myself to fall back into those negative patterns.
I mean, that's a very good way to put it, because just like you mentioned, inside, not all days are good days. It's the same thing on the outside, right? We all have those situations. And those are the times that you're tested, and when you're going to use your support, and that's to make sure you don't go off the rails, you know what I mean? So it sounds like you're aware of that and what you need to do when those things are going to happen, you know what I mean? It's not like it might happen or whatever. We all have stuff like that in our lives, right? Things are going to happen. It's the way it is. Yeah. How do you think you are different now? Like, how do you feel as a person different now than from when all this stuff was going on with these robberies back then? You seem much more mature based on what I'm reading. It's like a different person, you know?
Yes, well, thank you for that. I think I just have a different set of values, and I have a more intimate relationship with the hows and whys of the rights and wrongs. I think it's not that I was never taught right from wrong. I knew, but I just didn't truly grasp the impact of what it was to make a good or bad decision, right? So even just in the instance of these robberies, like, I knew what I was doing was wrong, so I didn't want to get caught. But I didn't sit and think about the fact that like these are lives that I'm affecting. I didn't understand the way trauma worked. I didn't understand the way my family would be hurt. I didn't understand my true impact in the community. I didn't understand human impact the way that I do now. And I didn't have a set of values or principles that I personally established for myself and that I believe in that I can always go back to. So now on these times where it might be a little stress or pressure, there's a center that I have that I can always get back to. There's a set of principles that guide me that I can always refer to, no matter what the circumstances are. And I just really, really lean on those things. And I also know I don't have to do it alone.
All right, sir. You did a really good job answering all my questions. I really appreciate you doing that. That's all I have for you today. I'm going to pass on to my colleagues and see if they have any other questions, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sikauskas. Ms. Chance?
So, Mr. Hall, I wanted to ask you, I know you want to go to a halfway house in Waterbury. Is that where your grandmother and your friend lives?
No.
Because I'm thinking, you know, you're going to a place where you don't have any social support. I was hoping that you would say that's where they live. So how are they going to support you while you are in Waterbury, since that's not where they're from?
Thank you for your question. So my real plan is to kind of start fresh, right? I want to be in a different environment, in a new place where I'm not known. I don't have to run into the same old people that are sadly probably doing many of the same things. I'm fortunate enough to have people who have done things to move mountains for me while I've been incarcerated. And I trust that when they see me out there being the man that they know I can be, that distance won't create any issue. And just being able to reach out and just call and FaceTime whenever I want to. I don't always need to physically be in their presence for us to feel each other's impact.
Did they ever visit you during your incarceration?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to make sure, you know, because we're all human beings and you've been incarcerated for so long. You know, you're going to a halfway house and you only identify 2 people. So I wanted to be sure that you still have that connection. And these are people who visited you during incarceration. So based on what you're saying, I hear that, you know, you can always reach out to them. And your opening statement was excellent. I listed all the programs that you participated in. And I know you're currently in the vet dog program. Now, do they pay you to be in that program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And I like the idea that you're going to connect with a CCAR. And what are your thoughts about how you're going to give back to your community?
So the first step would be getting a job in recovery. I also would like to do something with the youth. So like even the America's Vet Dog program, it really taught me a lot. And I realized how much self-esteem and pride comes from being able to take this animal that you can't communicate with in like a traditional sense, and then having it do these really wonderful things for people. So I would like to share that with people who are in recovery as well as younger people, and sort of teach them that skill that I have and can connect around that. So many people have dogs and love dogs. And it's also a path to entrepreneurship, because substance abuse recovery is such a holistic thing, right? And even people who are engaged in criminal activity, addressing those things is a holistic activity as well. So it's like using something that can also be a tool to address someone's economic circumstances, because it's a viable skill that you can easily become an entrepreneur in if you have a criminal background or not. I think it's just something that I look forward to being able to add and contribute.
Do you see or hear from anyone in the gang that you were in?
Oh, no, absolutely not. The smartest thing that I ever did was renounce gangs and just leave that life behind me. Everything positive in my life really started with that decision and just say, I'm done.
And I know are you still in the People Empowering People program?
So that actually is a mistake. I don't know
It is?
what exactly got lost in translation. I was slated to start that program, but it got delayed multiple times, and I'm actually not sure the status of that program.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to know. And what did you do for the Second Chance Pell program?
Oh, so my current majors are human services and business administration.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, your opening statement really reflected on everything, the crimes that you committed, how and when you decided to change your life around, and you took the programs and appear to have benefited from them. So, and you have a good release plan for when you go back in the community, choosing to go to a halfway house in a different area from where you previously came from, and reconnecting with CCAR. So I wish you the best of luck, Mr. Hall, and I think you will do well once you go out in the community.
Thank you, Ms. Vance. So, Mr. Hall, this is what rehabilitation is supposed to look like. You're very articulate, and you appear to be very intelligent. And I really do hope that you keep the letter that you wrote and that you review it when you become a little discouraged. And I mean, and just in a summation, honestly, you talked about life, and you spoke about that with my colleague, Mr. Sazalskis, and life. There's nothing we can do about it. Life just lives. And it's important that we realize that it is just a temporary thing and that you'll get through it. I loved your discussion. You are very insightful. And you're one of the offenders that here today, probably the only one that I really am happy to support discretionary parole for. So give us a few minutes to talk about your case. We will give you our decision shortly. Mrs.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Hall was involved in a stretch of very serious crimes when he was much younger. He's rated low to recidivate, and he's taken the time to express his apologies to all of his victims and other people that he knows that he probably affected that he doesn't even know who they are. Mm-hmm. So he understands the depths of what was involved with that criminal activity. Over his time during incarceration, he's been there for a very long time, lengthy sentence. And what we don't often see is someone that goes this long without any disciplinary reports, especially in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. And he has no record of failing probation or parole in the past. His record is not long because he's really been incarcerated for most of his young life. And he's done very well. He's addressed his addiction problems that led to some of these things. He's gone on to be a mentor, and he's taken all kinds of programs, like you said. There's nothing else that I could even suggest for him to do, really, at this point. And in my mind, he appears today as a completely rehabilitated. Mm-hmm. So I am in favor of his parole.
Thank you. Ms. Chance?
So am I. I agree with everything my colleague said.
Okay. So I have no co-defendants, Jonathan King or Jabron Hall book. A halfway house as he's requested, and a mental health evaluation and treatment is deemed necessary. Is there anything else?
I don't think we need anything else at this time.
No.
Okay. I move that Ronnell Hall 356875 be granted discretionary parole on or after his earliest eligibility date, which Officer Smiley, please check me if I'm not right. May 13th, 2025.
May 12th.
Thank you. With the following conditions, in addition to the standard parole conditions that will apply to both discretionary and then your 10 years of special parole. You are to have no contact with your co-defendants, Jonathan King or Jabron Hall book. You'll be participating in a mental health evaluation and receive treatment as deemed necessary. and a halfway house for residential placement. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So Mr. Hall, we've granted you parole. We put the mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary on, kind of to help you navigate your life as you transition from the facility back out into the community. Life as you remembered it, 10 years ago. You've been down for 11 years, looks like, over 11 years. Life as you remember it is completely different now. So just having someone to talk through things as you navigate life out in the community, we think will be beneficial for you. That's the only reason why we have the condition there. And we do wish you the best. We hope to read about the great things that you're doing in the community. Good luck to you, sir.
Madam Chair, one correction. It is, you're right, it's 5:13.
Thank you. All right, so there's a motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we're just gonna amend the motion to include a release date on or after of 5/13/2025. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so Mr. Hall, you'll receive all of this in writing. 10 years of special parole is difficult, but you still have 2 years to finish this sentence before you even start that. But if you do well, we do have relief now where you can have your special parole terminated early. And I don't see you having very many issues. I would utilize your parole officer as a resource. Do they have arresting powers? They absolutely do, but they are there to help you. That's their job, to help you. So that person, I would encourage you to develop a good rapport with him or her because they're going to be your best friend for the next 12 years. So good luck to you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm sorry?
Nice work.
All the best.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Be well.
Nice job.
This concludes the hearing for Ronnell Hall 356-875. This concludes the hearing for today at 12:02 p.m.
To her.
Oh,
Happy holidays.
Same to you.
yeah.
Have a good one.
All
You
right,
too.
take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.